I've got another mushroom story, and as the title says, it's my first time having visuals on mushrooms. And I've had mushrooms a total of 15 times in my life, and I've never really had any visuals. I've done a lot of microdosing, and I've eaten raw mushrooms a handful of times, and I just couldn't bear the taste and texture, so I never really ate enough to get to that level. But this time I did, and I never had visuals like this. I don't think I even had as intense visuals on acid. So let's get into this. This story takes place April 1st of this year, and I had been microdosing about every 2 months since August 2021, and I would have around 125 milligrams, sometimes twice as much, sometimes 3 times as much, and it was never anything crazy. And during that time I was consuming these mushroom chocolate bars, and right before this I had eaten the last of the chocolate bars. So I had to re-up, and I get some raw dried mushrooms, and the strain was called Hillbillies, and I've only eaten raw mushrooms like 5 times, and I was used to the chocolate. I didn't like the taste or the texture of chewing them up, and I can't remember what gave me the idea, but I decided to put them into a smoothie. And I put all the fruits in. I got the berries and the pineapple, and I put some banana in. And bananas have this chemical that breaks down the chemicals that are in psilocybin and make it easier to digest. And I guess that's usually why people have an upset stomach when they take mushrooms, just because those chemicals can't digest properly. So I drink this mushroom smoothie, and about an hour goes by, and I'm sitting at my computer, I'm playing some games, I'm chilling, and all of a sudden I feel like I'm coming up. I didn't have any stomach discomfort, because usually that's the sign, the indicator that I'm about to be coming up on mushrooms. But since I didn't have that stomach discomfort, there was barely any warning, and all of a sudden my computer starts growing, and my table starts growing, and everything just looks very wavy. And this waviness was getting so intense that I eventually had to stop playing video games and step outside, because I was starting to get a little overwhelmed. So I go on my phone, I start texting my friends that I was tripping hard as fuck, and the letters on my keyboard had rainbows coming off of each letter, and it looked like the letters were coming off the screen even. And I've only had intense visuals like that on acid. I've never really had visuals on mushrooms. The only visuals I really had from mushrooms were things were brighter, things were more vivid, and it was more like the stoned vision when you get really, really high from weed. So I never saw anything too crazy, but this time I was experiencing such a more intense trip than I ever had on mushrooms. I was used to the albino Avery strain that was inside of the chocolates, but the strain I had gotten was a lot stronger than the chocolates. And when I had put the mushroom in the smoothie, I didn't exactly weigh it before I put it in. When I first got the mushrooms, I had inspected them and I had weighed each individual mushroom. And they weighed between 0.4 and 0.5 of a gram. Usually my microdose is around 100 to 300 milligrams, and a 100 milligram difference can really make a difference in the trip. At least to me. Some people might react differently and disagree. Some people might not feel anything unless they take 2 grams. I guess it's because my tolerance is so low. I got into microdosing because I never felt the need to take anymore. I always got what I needed out of the trip, but everyone's different, and I do plan on macrodosing eventually. So back into the trip. It's about 2 hours in, and I see this dark frame around my vision. Everything was more focused, and mentally I felt like I had gone to another dimension. I had been so focused on thinking and really gone deep into my brain, thinking deep about life, and seeing how the causes and effects of certain things had affected certain outcomes of my life. I was seeing my life in a bigger picture, and I was thinking about how my problems in life had snowballed into these other problems, and just seeing how negative emotions had affected my life. This probably sounds terrifying, but I had already familiarized myself with those problems for the last few years, and I worked a lot of it out, but this trip made it seem like a whole big picture of what not to do. And the mushroom trip I had in August 2021 had shown me what I should be doing and what I'm capable of. Because all my life I kind of struggled with self-doubt, and then in 2021 I had this mushroom trip, and it really opened me up to the realization of who I really am. And I'm actually working on making a video about the 2021 life-changing mushroom trip. Whenever I take psychedelics, it's like it's trying to show me something, like I'm supposed to learn a lesson. And it always feels like that lesson is just not to be negative. And that if you're not negative, good things will come to you. And I've experienced that, so I can definitely say that that is true. Nothing too eventful happened during the rest of this mushroom trip. And the dark focused frame vision and visuals didn't last that long, maybe about 30 minutes. And then they went away, and then I just felt really stoned for the rest of the day. I had just smoked and played video games until I had fallen asleep. And that's the end of today's story. I'm planning on posting more in-depth trip reports, and I got a whole bunch of more stories I'm working on, so stay tuned for that. Follow my Instagram, dankity_spankity. I post updates on when I'm posting videos again, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.